Two Top Bins, the show bringing you all the action from England and Italy. It is the Train is Building Momentum show because we are just about 3 weeks away from having Premier League soccer back. Only about less than a month, really, until we get SerieA back in our lives. Until then, we're going to be talking about transfers, starting to preview the season just a little bit, dipping our toes in that water. I'm your host, Matt, joined by my co-host, Dom. Dom, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I got rained on when I was trying to grill, but, all is fair. We're chilling.
That is the way summer goes, is random outpourings and bursts of rain, as we all know. This episode of Top Bins, if you're a longtime listener, you know what I'm about to say next. It's brought to you by Binho Board. Binho is the next big tabletop game for your man cave / she shed. Think paper football meets foosball, and you've got Binho. Binho Board is a game and lifestyle brand based in Phoenix, Arizona. Binho's goal is to provide the highest quality boards and a true brand experience. Every part of the boards have been tested time and time again for the best possible playability, so that every Flicker's experience is a positive one. Bring the world together with Binho and hear someone's story from the other side of the pitch. Right now, you can go to binhoboard.com and use our code BINHOUSP, BINHOUSP, for 10% off your order, including the newly launched limited edition Ultraviolet board and Team USA and Team Mexico merch. That's code BINHOUSP for 10% off your order at binhoboard.com. We're going to start the show tonight, as we have a lot of other nights this summer so far. Doing a little transfer roundup, talking about some confirmed deals and getting into a little gossip. Then we're going to play a little over-under game, and then maybe in like 10 months, you'll check back in with us, see how good we did, see how smart we are, We're good at that kind of stuff. So let's get into some of the confirmed stuff. Kula Bali confirmed to Chelsea. It's hilarious because last week when we were talking about Chelsea, I said I'd really like to see them get a center back, and I feel like there was no act. And then literally the next day, Koulibaly was in very advanced talks and is now confirmed. I think it's a great signing. He's an older age, of course, not like the a one for the future type of deal here, like they were going after with De Ligt, but still a very, very good center back. I think he'll be a great partner. There's not really an area I think of defensive, genius that he isn't good at. I think he's a great passer. He's great physically, good in the air. He's a good goal threat as well on set pieces. I just think he's all around a very, very strong center back. Very, very good addition. It's going to be a shame not seeing him in SerieA next year, but it is going to be interesting seeing him in the Premier League. And I think he's a very, very good signing for Chelsea. So shout out to Koulibaly there. De Ligt, another exodus of top center back. I don't know that we've talked about this a lot, but SerieA losing really a lot of their best defenders.
We definitely have spoken on Juventus and what they've been doing.
Juventus lose De Ligt to Bayern, and there's been other talks about who they might bring in to replace him, but I don't know that you necessarily replace someone like him. Very young, of course, still plenty of room to grow. It's very rare for a center back to be as established as he is at his young age and to have already been at 3 very big clubs between Ajax, Juventus, and now Bayern. So it's a loss for, I would say, the league of SerieA. I think he's a fantastic player. I really liked watching him play. Very curious to see how he does at Bayern, who have not been afraid, by the way, of spending a lot of money on defenders. Luca Hernandez, they broke a record fee for a few years ago. So they're not afraid there.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him get on in that league. I think it's a good move for him. With regards to his career, I think last week we were mentioning, he's still super young. It's actually kind of crazy to think about that. He's been in the spotlight for quite some time and at such a young age. So I think that this is a good move for him to, the most established and best team in the Bundesliga, and he's going to dominate. And I think that that's going to, allow him to improve as a player and develop into, a top center back in the world. As for Juventus, there's some rumors going on. You don't have it listed, so I guess I'll just mention it now. Juventus seemed to be getting in a bidding war with Inter over Bremer. His agent kind of confirmed that, and Fabrizio Romano tweeted it. So he was saying, we're in talks with both Inter and Juventus. We're going to see. Apparently, Inter submitted a 30 million euro bid, including a player on loan. Juve hasn't made an opening official proposal, but it should happen soon as of us recording this today. So
yeah, I Bremer's been linked to Inter a lot, and I wonder if this turns into someone that we'll talk about later too, where it felt like kind of a guarantee that he was going to go there, and then a month and a half goes by and there's nothing official, and he moves on. But yeah, Inter have been in with Bremer a lot. Inter are weird though because they have this kind of requirement to sell. It seems like I'm not like as astute on their finances, but people that I know have talked about that they need to sell another kind of like big income type of player. Like Skriniar has been that guy a lot this summer for in terms of moving on from him, and that's just a need. But I don't know. I like I've talked about the Bremer. I don't think he's the most amazing center back. I think he does some things very well, but I'm not sure he's the hole I want to plug. I'm interested in Napoli to deal with Kula Bali as well. In a similar way. I mean, you're talking to a big exodus of talent and leadership. Mertens also leaving Napoli now, not settled on where he's going, if he's going to stay in Italy or move abroad somewhere. But they've obviously lost Insigne as well. Now there's Fabian Ruiz drama where he's not accepting a new contract. He only has a year left on his deal, so Napoli going through some changes for sure in terms of how we've come to expect them to be, and the players that we're used to being there. So it's going to be interesting to see how they cope with that this season. This season, I think, outside of like the top two, which I think will probably be again both Milan clubs, if I had to guess in this moment, right? 3 through 8 in Italy right now is very fluid for me. I have a really hard time. It's hard for me to say that there's any one club right now that is like furthering themselves. It's funny because at the beginning of last season, I thought both Milan and Rome clubs were playing very well, especially at the start of the season. I thought we could see them, in that top 4 in that title discussion. And I actually feel the same way sitting here today, that I think both Milan and Rome clubs, Lazio and Roma, and Milan and Inter, I think have in different ways impressed me and concerned me a little bit in the transfer market this summer. But some of the deals that they've made and some of the deals we expect them to complete, I think make me pretty positive on them. Whereas a lot of other clubs there in that kind of range, I haven't seen enough of, or haven't done really much at all to make me think, wow, like this is a team that's on the up or improving in some way. So I am curious to see. There's so much time left in the window. I don't want to make it seem like it's imminent, but you'd like to see these deals getting done, as you're working towards preseason now. And, you only have, again, less than a month before, the first match week. So Manchester United signed Lisandro Martinez. This was kind of a drug out deal for a long time. It seemed like he was headed to Arsenal till United got involved. He's an interesting player. I think people have heard a lot about him. I think the fact that he's been chased by 2 of the bigger clubs, especially in England, but also in the world, like people are pretty aware. But in case you're not, he's a fantastic passer of the ball. That is definitely one of his elite skills. He's a great possession, but also like progressive player. He's not afraid to step up into the midfield as well, step up into the final third, and be like a creative player. And I think that's where he gets a lot of his value from. Struggles a little bit physically. I am curious to see how he makes that transition to the Premier League, which is especially like aerial challenges and I think like 1v1 duels. It's a league that you have to be kind of I don't like to use like the cliche of like pace and power, right? But like I do think there's a speed to the Premier League that players have talked about that there's an adjustment period to, and I am curious to see how he makes that leap. But in terms of like technical ability, I think he has it. I think I'm really curious to see how he progresses here at United. I'm curious to see where he plays exactly too within this United team. They're one of the teams, and I know it's the same for everyone. I really can't wait to see how they line up. I can't wait to see how they play, simply because I think there's still tons of question marks for me about them and where they're headed. They still have some transfers to make as well before all is said and done, and improve the squad a little bit.
I mean, the Manchester United formula right now is sign every Ajax player that's played under Ten Hag and kind of just use them to kickstart his system, so he has a bunch of people who know how he wants to play, and then supplement and build around that. I guess that's what they're trying to do and what he wants to do, and create that skeleton. I mean, with a team like Manchester United, even though they finished, in a Champions League spot this year,
They did not.
No,
They're
right.
in Europa League.
They're in Europa League. So, I don't want to say you're building from the ground up, but that's essentially what you're doing with this club, in my opinion, because Manchester United's going through kind of like a low key banter period, and you know,
I wouldn't even say it's low key. Last year was their worst finish in the Premier League era.
yeah,
They really are building, like you said, from the ground up, because
yeah.
there's really only one direction to
So,
go, which
so
is
this
which is
seems
up.
like the right kind of thing to do. I just don't know if it'll work.
I think, yeah, they lost two of their scouts, at the end of the season, who weren't replaced. And I do think you're right in pointing out that a lot of the people, now some of it too is like journalists know, and we see this a lot anytime there's a new manager, they're always linked to like players from either their previous club or from that league. It happened a lot with Klopp when he came to Liverpool, where like every Bundesliga player was like linked to Liverpool for like a solid year. We've rarely signed Bundesliga players. Like that's just not been like, funnily enough, like that's not really been a league that we've dipped in the well a ton over the years, especially since Klopp has been in. So there's always that kind of stuff. I do think it's. I'm curious. I'm curious to see how it works out. I'm not faithful. I'm not putting a ton of belief within United and this team, because I did a little bit last year. I thought, based on the performance of the previous season and what they added in the transfer market, that they could go somewhere. But they're a weird team to figure out, because they have, I think, some unrealized potential, and yet also are very stagnant in some other ways. So I'm curious to see how this season goes. I'm curious for this one too. Bernardeschi to Toronto. Gonna have to make a trip, I think, next time Toronto or in Philadelphia, to go see Lorenzo Insigne and Bernardeschi.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I guess the Italian community has major influence right now.
Well, they tried getting
Toronto
Bellotti
FC.
too.
That's what I'm saying. Like they're just trying to build like the Italy C team, and like just give the MLS a show. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean, it's very interesting too. You've got Davide or Domenico Crescito, right? Is playing for them as well.
Crescito, I don't believe
Is it him or yeah, right?
It's
sure.
Insigne in him. I don't know.
No. They signed a third Italian. I'm pretty sure. Let me search this up.
Oh yeah, Crescito is at Toronto. Holy.
Yeah, they signed him as well, because there was like a little thing going around on like on Calcio Twitter of them in the locker room, and Insigne's like singing.
Crescito, by the way, one of my favorite players of like the last decade. Love me some Domenico Crescito.
So they got some Italian links going on right now. It's going to be kind of interesting, but
the Soprasetta boys.
Listen, the SerieA the MLS is gradually increasing in quality. I mean, the MLS is a good league as much as the MLS is shut up. The MLS is a pretty good league now. Not such the retirement league as people make it out to sound.
So. Yeah, Cucho Hernandez moving from Watford to Columbus Crew. He's been electric since he's come to MLS.
Bale made his
yeah, I mean, he did like a behind the back flick, and people like lost their minds. Like that was like not that crazy. Like of all the things Gareth Bale has done his career, that's not even making the top 200. I don't know. Like
that just kind of says like the levels of like American football fans.
It's just weird. We don't have to, like. Yeah, like it's like that meme of the dude like whoa, like. Rafinha officially to Barcelona. It's finally over. We can stop hearing about it, although we're still hearing about how somehow they're broke, and that I don't understand Barcelona. I don't understand anything about their finances and the levers that they have to pull to make money. It makes no sense to me how a club that apparently has to at gunpoint tell Frankie de Jong to get out of the club so they can sign other players is also able to sign Rafinha and Lewandowski and Frank Kessié and Andreas Cruz. Okay. I mean, someone who is pretending to be much smarter than me can clue me in on how that works exactly.
Did you see Barcelona's Twitter announcement for Christensen?
For Christensen's or Dembele when it was on the whiteboard, and he just.
Yeah, because I was gonna say Christensen's reminded me of like mid-banter era Milan, like announcing players, where their social media team was just terrible.
Yeah, I don't.
They were like 320p like or sorry, 144p like quality like pictures that they would upload. It was just so bad.
Okay, well, I just looked at their Twitter account too, and it has Serginho Dest in a Miami Dolphins uniform with pads, trying to throw a football. This is passer rating 1899. So there you go.
So they just put a video up of a bunch of people shaking Thierry Henry's hand because he was down in training, and like Memphis Depay goes in to try to like dap him up and give him like a hug, like the dap hug combo, and Henry just gives him like a firm handshake. And
the Key and Peele sketch.
Yeah. And like Depay like tries to sit there and like keep talking to him, and Henry doesn't like pay him any attention. He looks at it for a second, and then you can see an expression in his face that's just like, God damn. Like somebody like quote tweeting, it was like, it's like Depay not realizing he's the man.
No bitches.
That's the face of TikTok, dude. Yo,
that's Lewandowski right there.
The awkward like winks and smiles he would give at him, dude. Just
Jeez, what a club. Musque un club, you know? That's what it's all about. Let's get to the unverified rumors section of the show, shall we?
Some of these are verified. Fabrizio Romano confirmed.
See, yeah, he says that. It's, to me, yes. Like, these deals you can kind of count on being done. In fact, by the time you're listening to this, if you're listening to this tomorrow, they might be officially confirmed or whatever. But, to me, it's still a bit speculative on some of it, at least. Paula Dybala to Roma. This seems definitely like much more advanced. This seems like, within the next few days, we'll get some kind of like real official confirmation of this. But surprised at this because it felt for the longest time that he was going to Inter. And I just kind of expected him to make that leap, make that decision. Ends up not happening, and I think Roma's a good landing spot for him because there's certainly room for another attacker in that setup, and I think Dybala still has something to offer. I'm curious to see him work with Mourinho, and I'm really curious to see how Roma function this season because they had a pretty good year. We talked a lot about them and that I thought their future was pretty bright. And I think you pushed back on that a little bit, which was fair. But I do think that you're seeing like some structure being built now within this team that I think I think most people would take as positive. And I'm looking forward to seeing Dybala at Roma. I think he's going to look good in those kits, by the way, because they have a great kit.
I think it's just hilarious as a Milan fan to see Inter lose out on this. It's hilarious to me. But I mean, choosing Roma is crazy. I'm seeing all the salty like Inter accounts saying like Roma's gonna love when he breaks his toenail and is out for 6 weeks or whatever. So like, it's funny. I think a lot of people are now underrating Dybala just because of his injury and production issues and people are saying like, yeah, maybe Roma is like the level of club that he needs to be at. But like Roma isn't a slouch. Like I normally don't give Roma their credit, but like this is a little preview into like what I may talk about when we preview SerieA. But like Roma is one of the better teams in the league this year, in my opinion. So it's a nice move for him. It's great for Roma. And Juventus still selling all these players and not being able to retain players that are leaving on frees. And
I think some of the injury stuff with Dybala is a little overblown.
I agree. I agree.
The last 2 years, like even last year, he really wasn't that injured. He didn't miss that many games. I think people treat him like he's constantly missing like half the season, and he historically hasn't been that. Like he's been a crucial player for Juventus for pretty much his entire time there, which is what was like 7 years. Like, let me pull it up. Let me pull it up on FBref right now, actually, so I can get a more clear picture.
Well, I'll say this.
So the only time that he really missed significant game time was in the 2020-2021 season. By the way, when he had COVID, that year and publicly talked about how he struggled with that. And then last year he still played 29 games, started 26, then played over 2,000 minutes. That's a lot. That's like a significant contributor. Like that is. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
And every other season he's playing a minimum 30 games for Juventus.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
The one player that I always hated when the ball was at his feet was Dybala. Whenever I was watching a Milan versus Juventus game, this is just the guy that can create something out of nothing. He's always a threat. He's always looking to go forward. He can pass the ball. He can shoot the ball. Like it's a very, very good signing for Roma, especially, a player that can either play up top with Tammy or right in behind. I think that's really good, especially, Roma lost Mkhitaryan, so they needed a replacement. And I think that it's an upgrade. It really is an upgrade. So I'm curious, very curious to see how he gets on at his new club. I mean, it's a big signing.
He's gonna look nice in that kit. Tell you that much. He'll look nice in anything though. Lucas Muriel apparently also targeted by Roma. I saw this because I thought this was fascinating because he'd be interesting there at Roma as well as like a secondary option, but also this would sort of be a domino effect where Atalanta are apparently very interested in Pinamonti. So if you lose Muriel to Roma, then you get Pinamonti at Atalanta. I'd like to see kind of that revolving door situation. I'd like to see a little bit more out of Atalanta in general in this transfer window. A little concerned about this season coming up, and where they're at. But Luis Muriel, is such an interesting player because he's obviously had a few really good years at Atalanta, and has always been a pretty good goal scorer, no matter the context or the league. But like he just has this knack, especially for being like an insane super sub, and we've seen that especially at Atalanta, where 22 goals, not this past season, but the season before, then 18 last year, 9 goals, 8 assists, but on a lot less matches played too, but overall like similar amount of minutes. But Atalanta were in a much more difficult situation last year too, with a lot of the injuries and the transition that they had. So it'd be kind of a shame to see him move from Atalanta because I've sort of started to associate him with there. But yeah, I do think him ending up at Roma would be fascinating personally.
I always associate Luis Muriel with his Udinese days playing alongside like Alexis Sanchez and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I also, that's the FIFA player in me because when he was there, his card was absolutely cracked in game. But
he was a great career mode buy.
So I've been a fan of watching Muriel play. I've always loved seeing him play for Atalanta. Again, another guy who's starting because he doesn't always start for the team, and it's always a sneaky. It's like he's a sneaky player that Atalanta has had because he's like just fine with coming off the bench. You put him in like the 60th minute. He gives you that pace and that aggression off the bench to go forward and go after anything and press the defense, and he can dribble the ball well too. So I mean, if Roma's really being serious this year, getting in the transfer market, I'm gonna keep an eye. This is something when I was reading the doc when you put it together, I had no idea about this. So
yeah, I saw it's an article on some Italian website. So we'll see. We'll see if it comes
with a grain of salt, basically.
Yeah, it's just why it's in the speculation section. Milan chasing Tanganga from Spurs. I think this would be a pretty good signing. I think he's shown some flashes. Very good physical profile. I don't think it's super unlike a Tomori type signing, right? Where take a guy that's shown some promise but just hasn't gotten the minutes, and give him that opportunity to win, potentially even a starting spot. And it's kind of low risk, high reward for you. I think a club.
Milan has been going down this trend of getting fullbacks that can also kind of fill in at center back if needed. Tanganga is one of those types of players, in my opinion. I think it adds to the fullback depth, which is very nice. And then, he can also play in the center. Milan always deal with injuries. They've been dealing with some issues depth-wise when it comes to the center back. So to have those secondary players, like if Kalulu's going to be the starting center back, and Kier's coming off the bench or something like Gabia, I think is losing out in favor. So you kind of need somebody else in there, to potentially provide depth with certain games. And that would be nice. So as of an hour ago, Paratici is in Milan. They're talking about signing him on loan. But apparently he's linked to a couple clubs, isn't he?
Tanganga, I think I've really only seen firmly linked to Milan. That's the only times I've seen it, and it feels again like kind of their profile of signing over the last few years. again, I think Tomori's like the easy comparison, but they've done this. You could even point to someone like Origi, right? Where Origi's a
Yeah.
little bit older, but a guy that's sort of on the fringes of a top Premier League team, and kind of comes as a low risk deal for you, and has some promise still, and it just makes tons of sense.
I like what Milan's doing.
Even Teo Hernandez, I think you could say
Yeah.
it was a similar, much younger and I think much more like higher profile, but
Yeah.
similar type of thing.
I like that Milan's kind of picking players from the Premier League. You don't see a lot of other teams in Italy doing that. They're looking at other countries. They're looking at Spain. They're looking at Germany. They're looking at lower leagues. And Milan's been doing this thing where they're taking some good talent from France, and now they're expanding in England again. Tomori was the first like big profile guy coming from England, but they brought, like you said, they brought in Origi. This could be another one. He'll feel, if Tanganga is to come, he'll feel more welcome because there's a fellow Englishman and other guys that have played in the Premier League and speak decent English, so they can help him along with his getting acclimated with the club. It seems like a good thing. It really does. We can only wait and see. Like you said, it's not completely solid just yet. I'm looking forward to see it. I like this news.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. Zinchenko to Arsenal. This one, similar to Dybala, it just feels like we're going to get kind of an official confirmation in the next 2 or 3 days on this one. But I like
a
it.
Picture of him in the jersey, isn't it?
It's all Photoshop though. Like none of that is like Delict has one with Bayern that Romano posts.
It's here we go status.
Yeah, here we go status is as about as confirmed as it gets without the official tweet. But Zinchenko to Arsenal. I like this signing for Arsenal. I don't think it's bad at all. He can play in the midfield. He can play at left back. He's a pretty versatile player, coming from the Manchester City system, which we know that obviously Mikel Arteta likes and emulates in some ways at least. And obviously was a manager there, a coach there, so he has a prior relationship with Zinchenko. He'll link up with Gabriel Jesus, another Manchester City alumni now. I don't think it's a bad signing at all for Arsenal. I think it's actually an interesting deal for City too. And without getting too ahead of preview next week, I do think one thing we haven't talked enough about is that City and Liverpool have both lost some key players this offseason, especially some key squad players. And we've seen in the past that can be a bit of an issue, even when you get what you would assume are upgrades over that player. We've seen that be a little iffy now and then.
Mm-hmm.
You trust that these two teams will figure it out, but it's not just Zinchenko, it's Sterling now. And they've lost Fernandinho. I don't know. I think you can make the case that there's something to be lost. No more Gabriel Jesus to kind of spell that front line. I think you can have that conversation.
It's all about the players who are being brought in, right? Because we're always saying this thing that City is like a revolving door of a starting 11 where they can play players from their B or C team and they know exactly what to do in their position and do exactly their job. But it's obviously the replacements that are coming from other clubs. Like apparently the official bid for Cucurella is coming soon, so who knows if it works out?
That'll kill me. That'll kill me. Watching City just get another tailor-made fullback for them is just.
As of 4 hours ago, they said they're ready to open the talks. The bids to be submitted soon. Negotiations should begin.
Check the. I don't remember the number episode, but we talked about Cucurella, and I said what a great fit he'd be for City, and that I was already dreading when that became a realization. So here we are. That's my true thoughts for Arsenal. Though it's good. Kieran Tierney can't stay healthy, so you have a left back that can fill in for him. But again, when Kieran Tierney is healthy for the month and a half of a year that he is, he can play in midfield. I think it's overall a good signing. I like it. Good moves. West Ham closing in on Armando Broja. Chelsea player, was on loan at Southampton last year. Had some good moments, some bad moments too. Not an outrageous goal scorer, but he's kind of a highlight reel player. I think if you watch the tape on him, you think, wow, what a guy. But then you kind of watch him, for over the course of a full season, you think he's impressive in some moments, but I think overall not a totally polished player. I wouldn't hate this for West Ham though, because they do need, I think pretty clearly, like frontline help. And I think he would be a good addition to that. They especially need someone who can fill in for Antonio, because we saw that when he goes through a dry spell, you need someone that can reliably come in and provide the goals. And I think Broja isn't a reliable goal scorer yet, but I think would provide enough competition that, should he take that leap, you've got yourself a great player. But if not, you're hoping that Antonio gets kind of spurred on by some competition, or at least you have some insurance, some backup. So I wouldn't hate this. I'm interested to see what West Ham do, because they really haven't spent a lot of money in the last few years. And, now is the time, I think, to kind of make that jump forward. They've only signed Ajuerd so far this offseason, I think. So I'm curious to see if this goes through, and where West Ham line up this season, because this is a crucial next few weeks for them and their future.
Yeah. So before we get into the next section, let's just do some quick fire from some news from today. So AC Milan getting closer to signing Charles de Ketelaere. Apparently Wednesday they'll submit an official bid. What do you think?
It feels like one that's he wants to go to Milan, and it's all about Milan just like finding the right agreement with Bruges. So I think it's kind of when rather than if at this time.
Let's see. Fenerbahce signed Joao Pedro from Calgary.
Yeah, I was surprised with this. I really thought someone in Italy might want to pick him up, because he's just been such a reliable goal, and he's switched his nationality to Italy as well. I was a little surprised to see him move outside of the league, but it's a good signing for them, because he's a pretty capable striker. Like I'm shocked no one in Italy took a punt on him. Monza maybe, like.
Yeah. Rumors of Bayern putting a bid in for Victor Osimhen.
I would be surprised. I think he's going to cost way too much money, and no, I think he's at Napoli for another year.
Yeah, apparently Giuntoli said Osimhen and Lozano, they're being counted on this season, so they're probably not going to be for sale.
You've lost like 3 key players. There's no chance you're missing probably your best asset left. I don't see it.
Tati Castellanos is going to leave the MLS after one more match day and join La Liga side Girona.
Yeah, another like city football group team.
Yeah,
Castellanos is good. He's a good player. Still pretty young as well. So I'm curious to see how he does in another league. We've seen MLS players have some success moving abroad. It has been a little hit or miss. I think he's the type of player though that will have success. We'll see him come good.
Chelsea trying for both Koundé and Kimpembe. Do you think this still happens now after signing Koulibaly?
I think they probably get one of them. Kimpembe stuff is interesting because he seems like PSG are ready to move on from him. Kimpembe's been kind of hot and cold. If you talk to people that watch him reliably, they'll tell you that he can be a little inconsistent. Like Imperios on his day for sure, but has these issues with focus and attention. Koundé is interesting because he's like in this weird tug of war between Barca and Chelsea. Lord alone knows.
And last but not least, Zlatan signs a 1-year, $1.4 million deal.
I mean, just the biggest news of the week, right? I can't believe it took us this long to get there. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because obviously we know he's going to be out for a large chunk of this season with his injury and his recovery from surgery. So it's just a testament to the player that he is, though. Like at 41, he'll still be kicking around playing professionally. But I am curious to see what kind of role he ends up even having, just because. It's hard to see that.
That's what I've been seeing people talk about on Milan Twitter is like, I think one of the issues that, Zlatan did was he dropped too deep into the midfield all the time, trying to be a playmaker, slowing down the play sometimes, but like, it's also more taxing on his body, and which is probably leading to his injuries. He should be more like a goal poacher, play more like Giroud style. But it's very interesting. I think that Zlatan, that 2021 season, he was so good because he did have a competent number 10 behind him. Not saying that Çalhanoğlu is, world class, but like it's better than, Brahim Diaz and everything else that Milan was using at the number 10 this season. Hopefully, if CDK does come, I'm pretty sure that they're holding on to Yassine Adli. If Milan has a competent guy like playing in behind Ibrahimovic, if Ibra's going to be the starting striker, or even if he's brought off the bench, I think that he could regain a little bit of form. But this is a 41-year-old Zlatan Ibrahimovic coming off of another ACL surgery, so you got to be realistic with it. You got to you gotta say, he's not going to be the same Ibra. It's just,
It just
wait.
feels more like a leadership thing. Like this is just a
Yeah,
great guy to have around the club. And I
yeah,
think
I
like
agree.
for like younger
I agree.
players, I think that's really what it's about.
I agree.
And I think it's the same for him too. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Let's get into some over unders. I scoured the internet for some betting sites to get some over under prop bet types of situations. Not easy to do. In America, we love to prop bet like literally everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as easy to find. I had to do a little more digging than I expected, but we got them. Ladies and gentlemen, we got them. So we're going to start with just some like team over-unders. We're not doing every single team. I just picked out some that I thought were interesting or teams that I think could have a kind of, you can tell me different stories about their season, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's either a great success or a real disappointment. And it's the same for the players. The players I'll pick too are actually transfers too. So I think it's a little more fun that way to speculate on how they do. We're going to start with a team that I think has been, obviously well covered, well discussed now for the last year and a half, especially 2-3 years, if you really want to be serious. But Arsenal, their over under is 65 points. Just for scale, just for reference, last season they had 69 points. So the bookmakers have them a little worse off than where they were at last season. So Dom, how are we feeling over under 65 points for Arsenal this upcoming year?
The last time since this season that Arsenal has hit over 65 was 2018-19. Then in 2019-20, they dropped to 56, and then they've casually improved since then. The next season, they had 61 points. Then they had 69 points this year. So, and then even if you go, I said 17-18, right? So then Arsenal had 75 in 2016-17. They're making a few signings that'll help them out. I don't over 65 points. I may smash the over.
Looking over there. Man, it's tough. They're going to be in Europe, which they had the pleasure of not being in last season. And I do think that helped them at times. They didn't have the strongest squad depth. And I would say in some ways, still not the best squad depth. They've lost some players, and there's some controversy about one of their midfield players and whether or not he'll be available this year. So, yikes. But I'm going under. I just think the league has gotten a little harder this year, and I think having like European stuff to focus on, I think for me, I'm gonna go under. So I'm gonna mark this down that we've got a difference in opinion here because I'm looking forward to coming back and seeing how this pans out. We got Aston Villa next. Their over under was 50 points. And just by the way too, I know that someone else might find like sites that have like different numbers in this. These are the best numbers I could find. So sue me. I'm sorry. Sorry if you found a different number than I did. You just get over it. You'll be right. Aston Villa over under 50 points last season. They had 45 points. That was with though Gerrard coming in later like quarter of the season in, and they had a pretty bad start. They've gotten a lot of transfer business done early already. I think people have kind of forgotten about that they've signed pretty much a lot of their like big players. Right off the bat, they signed Kamara, Diego Carlos. They signed Coutinho on a permanent deal. So, they've already made some good moves. I'm curious to see how they get on this season. I think it's a team that can still grow and improve. 50 points, it's going to be tough. I think I'm actually going to go over on this. I think Aston Villa can improve on where they were last year.
You saw that they improved pretty well when Coutinho even came in. And like you said, Gerrard came in, in the middle of the season and stuff like that. They've made some quality signings. I'm going to go with you and hammer the over here.
Okay, so we are both over on Aston Villa, 50 points. Leicester City over-under is at 51 points. For reference, they had 52 points last season. Dom is really, really emphasizing the under here for those just listening to the show. Dom, why are you so enthusiastic about the under for Leicester?
I just, it just doesn't seem like they've really done anything transfer-wise to really supplement, the needs they need defensively. I don't know that I'm just not convinced this year. I'm not convinced. So, I really don't think that they even play as well as they did this year. I think that this is, you've seen them gradually drop down the table a little bit um, over the past few years, and they haven't done anything to convince me to think that they're going to improve on this year.
I think the thing that's working for Leicester for me is that they had a pretty bad injury crisis last season. They were in Europe. They don't have, at least they're not in Europe this year. We don't know if they're going to have as many injury problems, of course. But, Fofana will be back. I think once he got back and settled in the team, he saw the defense a little bit better, in better shape. And I think a full season will do them well. I agree. I am a little worried about the lack of transfer activity and that Tielemans.
I was just going to say.
Tielemans might still be out the door too.
Mm-hmm.
But, you could also sell me on Harvey Barnes having, a step forward this year. Like, you could sell me on there's some like promise here with this team, but I am also concerned about some of the players that they're depending on still, and how likely they are to have strong seasons again. And Brendan Rodgers is a manager that I don't have the most faith in. I'm going to go over, but like slightly. I don't think they're going to like massively improve, but I think if you're telling me they can have a similar season to last year, this season, I don't think I'd be surprised by that. So you're going under. I'm going over on Leicester City for 51 points. Newcastle United over-unders at 55 points. They finished with 49 last season, and we have to remember that was with Eddie Howe coming in January, and they were at the relegation spots. Or did he come in December? Either way. He came in about halfway through the season. Newcastle looked dead in the water. Then they have the takeover. Eddie Howe comes in, and they finish the season really strong. And they've obviously, already had some pretty good transfer business. So we expect them to have maybe one or two more signings. But just to highlight, they've got Sven Botman, Nick Pope, signed Matt Target permanently. So I think. And we'll see Bruno Guimaraes, have another, full off season now to really get embedded. Eddie Howe with a full off season with the team. You expect that to provide, some improvements there. 55 points feels steep. For last season, that would have put you, just 1 point behind West Ham. I have a tough time seeing that. I think they'll be good again this year. I think they'll be like comfortably mid-table. I'm not sure that they have the talent to be like a top, like really like top 8 top of team. Like I don't know if I see that.
So I'm treating this list that we have here as like a parlay. If this was a one-off bet, I'm taking the over, but I'm going to take the under.
I think we're both going under, because I think it's a little bit. That's a bit much. I think especially like. We have to remember, too, this is coming from betting websites where they know that the public is kind of in on Newcastle being good, and that, people are going to maybe spend money on it even when it's not a true value. I think they'll have a good season. I don't think they're going to be terrible by any stretch, but I think 55 is kind of ambitious.
They've had this big financial takeover, and they're a lot of Newcastle fans are, and the general neutral public that's kind of leaning towards a positive view of Newcastle. They're waiting for that big money signing and things like that, and there hasn't been any like bubblings going on in the transfer mill because I haven't seen anything.
It feels like the type of like number that you would see if they had signed like Lukaku, like was being rumored, like that kind of thing. Where it's like they had this big marquee signing. It's like, look,
exactly.
Like we're
exactly.
It's still like Callum Wilson and Chris Wood. I don't know. Like it's not that crazy, but there's still time in the transfer window. Should say, so that could change. This is another team that I think has had a lot of hype this offseason, especially, but over the last year. It's Tottenham Hotspur. Over-unders at 74 points. For reference, they had 71 points, and that was with Conte coming in only a few months into the season, but we did see it was a very obvious change, especially January onwards, once they got Kulusevski and Bentancur in, that this team is very, very good. We saw Heung-min Son and Harry Kane really light it up in the last 3 months of the season. Heung-min Son getting the golden boot shared with Mo Salah. So over under 74 points for Spurs. They will be in Champions League. They'll have Europe to contend with. Historically, until this trend gets bucked, we'll keep saying it, but that has not been good for Antonio Conte-led teams. It is usually not gone very well for them in Europe, and he's always performed better in seasons where he does not have European competition to contend with. And I think, the overarching thing, too, for a lot of us to keep in mind is that we do have the World Cup break in, like from November to mid-December. So, that could potentially, mix things up a little bit. We could see a little more wackiness, both in terms of going over and under some of these lines. But, Dom, how do you feel about Spurs over under 74 points?
They've made some quality signings that I think fit Conte's system a little bit more than some of their previous players that were playing last season. We've talked about that in the previous few pods. Conte's building on the depth of the squad, bringing in guys like Richarlison and Lenglet and stuff like that. They seem like a very scary team this year. Conte just runs his teams to the ground. And I know it's, the summer months, it's warmer outside. So when you're doing the running and training, preseason that Conte asks of you, of course, players on the first few, days are going to, be on the ground, like seeing the light of death, before leaving the training ground. But, like you said, there's European football to play, all that running, the World Cup break. I don't know. I want to say under, but that's just a win and a draw improvement on last year. Like one win, one draw improvement.
Chelsea finished on 74 points last year. So, they need to have a season similar to Chelsea. Chelsea had a great first half of the season, then had some pretty bad injuries and some other
they were
issues
dealing with some stuff. So,
right.
Maybe, it's not that much to ask of a Spurs team, I think. I'm gonna take the over.
I'm going over as well. I don't know that it'll be dramatically over, similar to my opinion on Leicester, but I think this is a good number because it's right around where I would expect them to be. So I'm going to go over because I do think they can improve on where they were last year once you have Conte for the full season, and once you have the off season for him to work with his players. I like what they've done this transfer window. I like it. Manchester United, 66 points is their over-under. Last season, they finished on 58. So an 8-point improvement is what. Now, United, of course, again, a big public team, one of the most supported teams on the planet. So naturally, they're always going to have kind of more inflated numbers. And, the bookmakers know that. They know that people will spend their money on betting for or against Manchester United, should always be said. But 66 points, 8-point improvement. I'm not convinced that they've done much in the transfer market that made me think like, wow, this is a team that's going to take a step forward. I don't know how you feel about that.
Is that a 3 more win team now than last year? No, under.
Yeah, I think I have to go under as well.
I don't think they improved much over the 58 that they have this year.
Again, we'll have to see like what happens over the next few weeks. But as it stands, they've signed Eriksen, which is a good signing. Don't diminish that. They've signed Malacia, Lissandro Martinez, like we mentioned earlier. But outside of that, there's not much within this team that makes me think there's like dramatic improvement. Erik ten Hag is obviously going to be the catalyst here. If there is like a big change, it's because of him. But that's a significant improvement, and I don't know if I've seen like the talent in the signings to make that happen. It's going to be up to Ten Hag to actually, make this work. They're playing Europa League as well, which typically has also been kind of a challenging thing for teams, even top teams like United that have like pretty good squad depth and can rotate. Playing just that Thursday night has been an issue historically for teams in dropping points and not being able to sustain the league in the way that they want to. So,
do you think Cristiano Ronaldo plays ever, or do you think like? No, we're not going to play him on Thursdays. Like, no.
Oh, Europa League? No, yeah. He'll play probably like 4 out of the 6 like group games, I would say, because like there's just no way that
Cristiano if he even plays for United in the Europa League. Oh my God,
it may be more real than you think. We'll see.
Cristiano stands on Twitter. The finally Cristiano, stuff like that. They're going to be tweeting. Oh, it's just another trophy that he can add to his cabinet now. It's something new and different. Messi doesn't have a Europa League.
Yeah, talk to me when they get bounced out of the round of 16 by Slavia Prague. Then we'll have
Yeah,
a
Europa
conversation.
League. Europa League in a slouch thing.
No, not at all.
Some of those lower league teams, man, they'll beat you. I just talk about what's it called? Bodo Glimt. All right, they trounced United.
Bodo Glimt going up to Old Trafford. Though they trounced Roma last year. Is might be what you're thinking of.
No, but didn't they beat United by a few goals? Or
Bodo Glimt last year?
Yeah,
they didn't play United.
I thought they did.
No.
Oh, never mind. Excuse
United
me.
got embarrassed by Atletico in the Champions League knockouts last year, but no.
Yeah, excuse me. I thought. Never mind.
I forgive you. Let's move on to the goal scorers, over-unders here. Just 4 players to highlight, 4 kind of marquee players that have moved. Richarlison over under 10. Has not been like a prolific goal scorer in his career within the league. He's hit double digits, the last few seasons. He had 3 out of his 4 seasons with Everton. He was at least double digits. He's not going to have quite the role and the time that I think he had when he was at Everton. So I'm skeptical about this number. I'm going under simply because I think, especially he won't be on penalties. That always helps. Not that he's like a big penalty, like buffer kind of guy, right? Where he's like Lorenzo Insigne, and that's how he's scoring 90% of his goals. But every 1 or 2 penalty goals you get definitely helps. He should be getting that at Spurs.
Is this league goals or
this is league goals?
Total?
This is league goals.
Okay, under
10 Premier League goals. Under. I think that's fair. I thought that was a bit of a big line to put. Erling Haaland over under 24.5. This is tough because Haaland has been a prolific goal scorer everywhere that he's been so far in his career. Pretty much always averaging a goal a game. We do have to talk about the Bundesliga tax, of course. Dime, you're raising your hand very politely. You may speak.
Oh, no, I'm just pointing to the over. That's all I'm doing.
You're going over. Yeah. So I was actually
not
curious
by a
on
lot,
this.
Not by a lot, but just a little bit. But like, you're coming to arguably, excuse me, because I'm speaking with the Liverpool fan, but you're speaking to arguably, the best team in the league. Just consistent. Pep has a system that will get the striker the ball. He's going to be able to, stay and press on the back line, and he's got players that can give him good service. I just think that based off of the system, Pep's system, it will get Haaland crosses into the box. Whoever, if they do get Cucurella, you have Cucurella and Cancelo going down the sides, putting crosses into the box for him. You're going to be playing counterattacking and a very pressing style. There's going to be passes and tap-ins that he's going to be able to get onto. He's able to create. I think that he can take that next step. I mean, this guy is ridiculous. I mean, he and yes, Bundesliga tax, given in. He's also done it for Norway. He's done it at an international level. I think that it's just this guy. I'm a big fan of Haaland, and this guy's just got it. He's just got it. He's done it in the Champions League. Like, I think that it's not by a lot. It's not like he's going to smash this and score 30 goals this year. But I think that like a 25, 26 goal season for him is definitely feasible.
To me, this is a health-related question. If Erling Haaland is healthy, if he plays, say, 35 Premier League games, I think he goes over this. This is more a question of, do you think Erling Haaland plays a large section of the season? And I don't want to brand him as like this injury-prone player. I think that's a little bit unfair, but he has struggled with injury already in his career. Like, that is a very real thing. And when you're talking,
it's fair.
Here's the thing, and here's the thing that people don't like to hear. Betting the unders almost all the time is the more profitable thing. No one likes to do it because it's boring and lame and not as fun to root for, but betting the unders is always pretty much the more like value bet, because there's so many more reasons why things can go under, right? Like, again, injury is the number one thing. And I was actually curious.
I'm being irrational here. Hammer the over. Thank you.
That's fine. I was just curious. I wanted to see what the other like best like debut seasons in the Premier League were. So I googled it. There's a good article from Give Me Sport. So 10 was Yakubu Portsmouth. He had 16 goals and an assist. Benny McCarthy for Blackburn Rovers had 18 goals and an assist in his debut season. This one was Jurgen Klinsmann tied with Michu. I don't know why they couldn't just separate the two, but Michu had 20 goals and assists. Jurgen Klinsmann had 18 goals and 3 assists. Diego Costa at 7.
Why couldn't they split that?
I have no idea. Diego Costa, with his debut season for Chelsea, 20 goals and 3 assists. That was a fantastic debut year. Ruud van Nistelrooy for Manchester United, 23 goals and an assist in his debut season. Roque Santa Cruz for Blackburn, 19 goals, 7 assists. Fernando Torres for Liverpool, what a guy, 24 goals, 4 assists in his debut season. Kevin Phillips, forgotten about this one, for Sunderland, 30 goals in his debut season. Just an unreal output. Sergio Aguero in his debut year for Manchester City with 23 goals and 10 assists, and the man himself, kind of a caveat in that it kind of wasn't a debut year if you think about it, but hey, I'll take it because it's one of the best Premier League seasons of all time. Mo Salah for Liverpool, 32 goals and 11 assists. We don't talk enough about how he broke the Premier League goal scoring record, but like whatever. We'll just we'll throw it in there chance we get.
So really, this over under is saying that Haaland is Fernando Torres / Sergio Aguero levels,
right? Like in that tier of player. I'm gonna go under simply because I think that's the better. That's the bet that I think. I would not be shocked if he hits over. I don't want to make it seem like I'm a hater. I'm not putting on the glasses, but I'm just willing to bet the over, and I could be so wrong by like October. This could be disastrous for me, but I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna play it a little smart here, so that at the end of this season maybe we have to diverge some places, where I can make up some ground on you. Gabriel Jesus over under 14.5 goals for Arsenal. He's not been a prolific goal scorer for Manchester City. He certainly had his moments, but on the whole has not been a big like volume guy. And it's interesting because I'm still not totally convinced that he's going to be like the number 9 for Arsenal. He's talked about playing on the wing and that he excels there, and we saw that for him for last season with Manchester City. But he's only gotten to 14 goals once in his Premier League career in the 2019-20 season. So outside of that, like he hasn't been there's only been 2 times that he's hit double digits. Now this is with City where there's some more rotation, more competition, but you could also say a much better offense than what he's walking into in Arsenal. I think it kind of goes both ways here. It's more a question of, do you think with added volume and with an added more like sustained role, do you think that he improves his numbers? I think it's reasonable to say that he does, but I'm not sure I love the over on this.
If this was goal contributions, like goals and assists combined, then I would probably say over for sure. I think, yes, even though I said that Arsenal's going, over 65 points, I think that that's from, a more spread out contribution from the entire team, from the different options that they have than just, solely like their new signing in Gabby Jesus. I still think it's an under. I think that he needs to get, acclimated to the system and do that kind of stuff. I think that he's going to create more than he's going to score. Like you said, there is no, solid, confirmation that he's going to be the number 9. He could play on the right, and that means he's going to create a little bit more than he's going to score. So, yeah, I think that 14.5 is a little high.
I'm going under as well. I just think he could have a really good. I think he could have like 12 goals and like 7 assists, and that'd be a good season. Like that would be an objectively good year, and Arsenal could have a good finish with that. But I'm just not sure I see him getting like high teens. I don't know if that's where I see him at. Raheem Sterling's over under 15 goals. He's an interesting player because I think we have this weird. I think as a I don't know, society. I think people have this weird like conception about Sterling that he's not a good finisher, and he does like miss these easy chances. I think he can be frustrating in that way. Yet he's also like this high volume guy, has had big scoring seasons, has hit double digits in the Premier League the last 5 years. He's been like a routine goal scorer in a very like high-powered offense, and I think again you could see that similarly kind of translate to Chelsea, where he'll have probably even again a little bit more of an established role than what he was getting at City at times, and he was still like a big contributor for City. I think there's this weird narrative that he wasn't when he was last year. On pretty decent minutes, he played like 2,100 minutes, 13 goals, 5 assists in the league. That's already close to the number that we're looking at here in terms of goals. I don't think it's inconceivable in a Chelsea team that is kind of lacking, like a big established goal scorer that he gets over this. I'm going over for Sterling. I think this is a good year for him.
I agree. I think he's a left wing. And they've been playing Christian Pulisic, and if you bring somebody of Sterling's stature to the club, he's obviously going to step into that starting spot. I'm curious to see how Chelsea, set their lineup. If they try to get both of those guys in, and Sterling plays more of a central role, or maybe even like a number 10, but I don't see that really happening. He could play on the right, but I don't think that's where he's best suited. Regardless, he's starting for the club. I'm curious to see where he goes, but I agree with you. A lot of people underrate this guy, and he's somebody that can score, and with a very established and prominent role in this lineup and with this team. I think that 15 is definitely feasible for him.
Yeah. So just looking back at his career, last season, like I mentioned, he had 13 goals in the league. The season before 10, then 20, 17, and 18. So he's been around this mark for most of his career with City. And even like in the years like when he was still very young, when he first moved from Liverpool to City, was hitting pretty decent goal numbers for like a winger. I think he can make a pretty sizable jump there, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. That is the end of our appetizer preview. We'll be back next week to kind of give you a much broader preview of the Premier League, because like I said, we are a train and our only destination is club football yet again, and we are barreling towards the station. So we'll be back next week to give you a more clear Premier League preview. But you can chew on those. You can check out the odds yourself. Maybe you have a lot of faith in us, and you're like, what, I'm gonna take up on some advice. If you win, you're very welcome. You're happy. You can split the proceeds with us. If you lose, I'm sorry. It wasn't my fault though. I didn't actually make you do that. So
yeah, we demand royalties if you take our bets and win.
Like those weird crypto bros on Twitter. This is not financial advice, okay? I just want that to be clear.
We're just two guys who know a little bit, sometimes one more than the other, about English and Italian soccer, and we just sometimes bet with our brains, like Matt, or sometimes bet with our emotions, like me.
The duality of man was that I bet on both Madrid teams to win the Champions League, and that I won, but I also lost in so many ways. That's really what it's all about. So,
and sometimes both work. If me, I would have bet on Milan winning the Scudetto, but if I did that, I probably would have not seen them win the Scudetto with my luck. So
I have a general rule about not betting on any of my own teams. I can't have the emotional baggage and the financial baggage now wrapped up into one. That's a lot to put on myself.
Listen, if it's good enough odds, you don't even have to put that much money to make a decent amount of coins.
There's just nothing. There's nothing there for me. There's
live life on the edge, man.
That is not the life I live, brother. Anything to say before we get out of here?
Yeah, don't take financial advice from me. I'm a guy who was up, over $1,000 in Vegas before and then lost it all plus the money I brought to gamble. So yeah, don't listen to me when it comes to any of that. All right.
For Vegas losses, not terrible.
I don't know.
It's not great.
I'm not going to talk about how much I went under in Vegas, but listen to me for entertainment if you find me entertaining, but do not listen for actual betting advice, because I'm not the guy you want to go to.
My betting advice is take out $100 and put it on black at the roulette table and just walk away.
Hey,
That's my advice.
Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but
Yeah.
the thrill of the hunt, that's what keeps you coming back.
Yes.
And that's a FIFA addict as you could ever hear one.
Well, we're gonna get out of here. We'll be back next week to start previewing the Premier League because we're getting that feeling yet again. If there's any big transfer news, don't worry, we'll have you covered.
Follow us on Twitter. We like to tweet about it.
Follow us on Twitter, of course. You can check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. We'll be back in your feed, in your ears, and on your eyes. If you want to watch us on YouTube, if you want to see what we look like. I don't know if other people feel the same way, but I listen to podcasts sometimes, and I have absolutely no clue what these people look like. And then I finally see like a video form, and I look at them, and it's like, I can't even process that's that voice is coming from that face. I don't know if other people feel the same way, but it like totally bends my reality a lot of times. I don't think I've ever seen a podcast host and not been like shocked at that's the person whose like voice is attached to. I'm always like, wow, really? Okay. Like it's never the person that I think it's gonna be.
I normally find out about the other way. I find out about podcasts through the visual platforms. And then I go and listen, and now I have a face to put to it. But no, I do agree with you, though. Like that voice is coming from that face.
Right. We live different lives, and that's fun. We'll be back next week bringing you Premier League action. Until then, stay safe and put on sunscreen.